Is my first video update coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Thursday morning. Let's talk about some news and let's do a quick update with regards to the Patriot missile story that broke yesterday, actually 2 days ago. I reported on it yesterday, and we have the Kremlin's response to the CNN article saying that the Biden White House is in the final stages of sending Patriot missile systems to Ukraine. And the Kremlin has responded, and they have said that they will take out these Patriot missile systems should they appear in Ukraine on the battlefield. The Kremlin said on Wednesday that U.S. Patriot missile defense systems would be a legitimate target for Russian strikes against Ukraine should the United States authorize them to be delivered to support Kiev, according to Reuters. And Peskov actually sounded off on this as well, the Kremlin spokesman, and he said that absolutely. Actually, he was asked about Medvedev's comments in November with regards to the Patriot missile system, where Medvedev, he said that should Patriot missile systems, this was in November, should Patriot missile systems end up in Ukraine, well, then the Russians will not only take out the Patriot missile systems, but the operators, the military that is operating these missile systems. And from what I understand, you could be looking at anywhere between 3 people to actually launch the missile, but a lot more, 10, 20, 30 people who actually are involved in the entire process, the entire setting up and operating the Patriot system. I've actually heard numbers even higher, 60, 70 military personnel may actually be needed to operate the Patriot missile system. And it's very static. You can't really move it around. So once it's in place, it's tough to move it around. So it makes it kind of a sitting duck for the Russians to take it out. But that was Medvedev's comments in November, and Peskov was asked about Medvedev's comments during a press conference yesterday, and whether the Kremlin stands by Medvedev's comments that Russia will take out these Patriot systems. And Medvedev said pretty much, yeah. But he also said, let's wait and see if these CNN reports are accurate. So he added that disclaimer in there. He said, if these systems are there, then we're going to annihilate them, and the people around these systems, the soldiers around these systems, who will most likely be NATO. Let's not fool ourselves. This isn't going to be manned by Ukrainian military, so you're looking at a lot of NATO casualties there as well. But Peskov also said, let's wait and see if these media reports are indeed true, and if the Biden White House does pull the trigger to send these Patriot missile systems to Ukraine. So that's the response from the Kremlin. I don't think it's a big surprise that they're saying this. Absolutely, if the Patriot systems are in Ukraine, the Russian military, they are going to take these systems out. This is a very, very bad move from the Biden White House on multiple levels. Casualties, NATO casualties that are going to happen, that are going to occur. The fact that the Russians are going to take out these Patriot systems, so they're going to get an understanding of what's going on with regards to the Patriot missile systems. They're going to take them out. I'm sure they're going to study them, capture one of them. I don't know. I mean, it's a bad idea on multiple levels. And the Biden White House is actually going around trying to get other countries to give up their missiles in order to send them to Ukraine. So really, really dumb idea on multiple levels, and it's not going to make a difference in this conflict. If anything, what it does do is it pushes NATO closer into conflict with Russia, because you're going to get NATO forces in Ukraine having to set up, man, and operate these systems. So that is the response from the Kremlin, and let's now talk about the EU's ninth sanctions package, and they've run out of just about everything to sanction Russia over. So the EU is kind of revisiting sanctions package number one in a way, and they're going to go after media and Russian government officials, broadcasters, singers, celebrities. So they've kind of come with sanctions package number 9, which they're trying to finalize, and it looks like it'll be finalized tomorrow. It'll get the green light tomorrow. The EU is kind of come full circle. They have nothing more to sanction Russia with. They've gotten the energy, the oil, the price caps, whatever. They've hit pretty much everything, and so now they're going back to sanctioning Russian media and Russian celebrities and stuff like that. So the interesting part about this sanctions package is not so much the fact that they're going to start going after more media channels, which they say is state-run, like broadcasters that are broadcasting in, like, I don't know, Latvia or Germany or countries like this, and they're going to go after these media companies. The interesting part of this sanctions package is the fact that the EU officials are using this sanctions package to create a type of special reporting commission, their words, on disinformation. That's the scary part about sanctions package number 9, because they're going to say this is a special commission to review Russian disinformation that the European Union is going to set up with this 9th sanctions package. But give it a year or two, drop the Russian, and you're going to get a committee in the European Union that's going to be responsible for monitoring just disinformation. Take out the Russian, leave the disinformation in there, and keep this special reporting committee in place. That's the scary part about sanctions package number 9. EU officials are now calling for more decisive measures to censor Russian content within the bloc. Deputy leader of the Union Parliamentary Group, Andrea Lindholz, has suggested creating a special reporting commission to collect and examine examples of Russian disinformation. Quote, now that everything is becoming more expensive, there is a risk that people will become more receptive to pro-Russian fake news, she explained. So that's part 2 of this sinister plan to create a type of disinformation committee. Didn't the Biden White House do this like 6 months ago? Didn't they have a Ministry of Truth set up, and they had that crazy lady, that partisan Democrat crazy lady in charge of it? I forgot her name, but yeah, the Biden White House tried this Ministry of Truth thing, and well, here you are. You have the EU now trying to get this Ministry of Truth thing pushed through, but it's going to be under the guise of Russian sanctions. So they're going about it in a much more clever way. But always keep in mind, when this war does come to an end, and it will come to an end, all of these committees and all of these institutions and these surveillance mechanisms and stuff like that, it's going to remain. They're just going to drop the Russian from in front of the name. That's all. All of this surveillance and centralization and all of this stuff is going to stay in place. It's not going to get dismantled when the war ends. And the motivation behind creating this special reporting group is very telling by the quote from Andrea Lindholz, where she says, now that everything is becoming more expensive, there is a risk that people will become more receptive to pro-Russian fake news. Think about that quote for a sec. This is an EU Parliament member who is basically saying, look, in order to prevent people in Europe from protesting and complaining about the terrible living conditions that we as Europe have put them under, because all of these sanctions all of the inflation, the increased cost for petrol and diesel and gas and electricity, this was a human decision made by the European Union. They're the ones that decided, first with the lockdowns and then with the sanctions against Russia. They're the ones that decided to put European citizens into more poverty and difficulty. But she's saying, this parliamentarian, Andrea Lindholz, and I hope it's a she, but she's saying that, look, in order to prevent people from complaining and getting out in the streets and protesting and questioning our decisions and power, that's the risk that we run. We need to create a mechanism so that we can monitor information that may be that may present a more truthful narrative to the people of Europe as to why they are in the predicament, the social and economic predicament that they find themselves in. So this is a very, very interesting quote from this EU parliamentary deputy leader of this EU parliamentary group. They don't want the people out on the streets. They're very scared of that because it's a direct threat to their power. And that is what these EU officials fear the most, is losing their power. Because if you're in the EU Parliament, if you're working, you're one of these commission, Ursula von der Crazy or Borrell, one of these guys, I mean, you've got the best job in the world, right? Tons of money, tons of power, zero accountability. You weren't voted into office. You answer to no one. You're accountable to no one. The only thing that scares you is when people go out onto the streets and they demand a dignified living. That's what scares you. So you're starting to take measures. If you're one of these people, you say, we better start taking measures against the threat of protests. And step number one is to start creating these 1984 dystopian committees, ministries of truth, to start monitoring information that gets out into the public square. So that is EU sanctions package number 9, which should be approved by tomorrow. All the EU presidents and prime ministers are going to go along with this because, well, they have no backbone. I imagine the only country that's going to provide pushback is Hungary. But at the end of the day, they are also going to vote these sanctions through. And I'm trying to see, is there anything else that these sanctions are going to present us with? They're going to go after mining companies as well, Russian mining companies. I've heard rumors that they're going to also sanction Iran because you have this running narrative of Russia is running out of weapons, and so they're getting all their weapons from Iran and North Korea. So they're going to sanction Iran as well. And some of the Russian TV presenters and personalities and singers who are going to be blacklisted, 144 individuals. Boris Korchevnikov, Marina Evgenievna Kim, singer Grigory Lepservidze, and writers Dmitry Puchkov, Nikita Mikhailov, and Sergei Mikhev. All right. There are rumors that they're going to try to sanction Russian Orthodox Patriarch Kirill. Again, I don't know how true that is. Last time Hungary blocked those sanctions against the Russian Patriarch, but I don't know, maybe that's going to go through as well. But anyway, that is the sanctions package. Expect sanctions against Iran as well, because the narrative is that Russia is, once again, you guessed it, running out of weapons. According to the collective West, NATO, the European Union, and the United States, the Pentagon, Russia is reaching out to North Korea and Iran as it burns through 40-year-old ammo. The Pentagon this week is suggesting that Russia is growing increasingly desperate in maintaining steady ammo supplies, with senior officials describing 40-year-old Soviet-era ammo being used, claiming Russia is turning to countries like North Korea and relying increasingly on Iran. They, Moscow, have drawn from aging ammunition stockpiles, which does indicate that they are willing to use older ammunition, some of which was originally produced more than 40 years ago, a senior Pentagon official told a press briefing. This makes it potentially faulty, unreliable, and even dangerous for the Russian troops operating the heavy guns, the official described. In other words, you load the ammunition and you cross your fingers and hope it's going to fire, or when it lands, that it's going to explode. So, right off the bat, the fact that the Pentagon is suggesting that Russia is growing increasingly desperate, that is the giveaway right there. They have no clue. The sources that they do cite are Ukrainian military officials who have this ammo, and they're saying this is 40-year-old ammo, and this is proof to the fact that Russia is running out of weapons. And then they go on to say that these weapons are unreliable if they're fired and stuff like that. The reason they say that is because when Russia does go after the Ukraine electric grid again, which they will any day now, I imagine they're going to put together their next salvo of missiles and drones. The collective West could then say that Russia was using old weapons and they've damaged civilian infrastructure, and we need to place more sanctions, condemnation, give Zelensky more money, give Ukraine more weapons, stuff like that. So that's why they're saying that Russia is using older weapons, and these older weapons may be faulty because they're just kind of getting ahead of the narrative that when Russia hits Ukraine next time, they're going to run the stories of the damage to civilian infrastructure because of the old ammo. That's what they'll say. Because of the old ammo that Russia's using, because they're desperate, they're now hitting targets which are non-military targets. Anyway, using old ammo, 40-year-old ammo, I don't know. Maybe Russia is. Maybe Russia isn't. I don't know. Maybe a part of the missiles are old missiles, old ammo. I don't know. Is it an indication that Russia's running out of weapons? I don't think so, actually. I would say that, if anything, why would Russia want to plow through all of their new tech? Why would they use their new technology and their new missiles if they could use their old missiles and tap into their old stockpiles? Sounds like it makes more sense to me. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. But it's interesting how Russia is running out of ammo and they're desperate when they're firing 40-year-old missiles. But when the collective West is going through their stockpiles, which are 40 years old, and they're giving them to Ukraine, well, Ukraine is winning. Russia loses when they use their 40-year-old missiles, but when the countries of Europe have to dig through their 40-year-old stockpiles and give those weapons over to Ukraine, well, Ukraine is winning. And I actually hear that the Patriot missile systems that they are sending to Ukraine are the older versions. They're going to be even less mobile and more susceptible to Russian annihilation. But we are getting lots of reports now that Ukraine is indeed running low on weapons. And you even had the U.S. ambassador to NATO come out with a statement and say as much, that that NATO countries are just unable to provide Ukraine with the weapons it needs. The U.S. ambassador to Ukraine said the alliance has a shortage of weapons because of Ukraine. The Estonians are facing a real stockpile shortage, and they are not alone in this problem. We are seeing this situation throughout the alliance. Ukraine itself is facing the same problem. That is what the U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Julianne Smith, said the other day. And then you get stories like the Wall Street Journal, which says many of Ukraine's Western weapons await repairs far from the front line. Some of the most powerful weapons that the West gave to Ukraine have been languishing away from the battlefield for prolonged periods because of the complex maintenance procedures and quarrels among European allies. This is basically what Brian was saying at the New Atlas, is that Russia, when they repair their weapons, they don't have far to go. It's right there, right next door. They can repair it and then get it back to the battlefield. What Ukraine has to do is they have to go all the way to Poland or Slovakia or Germany, fix the weapons there, and then get them back to the battlefield. And then they have to come all the way back. Allies such as the US and Britain service the arms they donate to Ukraine in Poland, near the Ukrainian border, but Warsaw has refused to allow Berlin to set up a servicing center in Poland, requesting instead that the German manufacturers provide confidential technical information in order for a Polish state-controlled company to do the work, according to German officials involved in the talks. I don't know. It sounds like the country, the allies that have a weapons problem, doesn't sound like it's Russia. It sounds like it's the collective West, Ukraine, and NATO. But the distraction is that Russia, because they've managed to find 40-year-old weapons, the distraction is that Russia has a weapons problem. And once again, any day now, Russia's going to run out of weapons. Actually, the article that I read earlier about the claim that Russia is using 40-year-old ammo and weapons is that by 2023, early 2023, Russia is out of weapons. That's the claim that they're making. Well, we'll have to wait and see. 2023, right around the corner. January, February, March. I imagine those are the 3 months where Russia is going to be towards the end of its ammunitions, of its stockpiles. That's the claim being made. So Poland, the weapons go to Poland. By the way, Polish parliament, I think it's the lower parliament in Poland, the SEM, SEJM, they have officially recognized Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. So any type of diplomatic dialogue for anything going forward, I imagine, between Poland and Russia is now off the table. So there'll be no Victor Bout, Brittany Griner Polish editions taking place in the near future, should that scenario come up. This is a very dumb move by the Polish authorities. You can hate Russia all you want, but it doesn't make much sense to cut off all avenues of dialogue and cooperations, because you never know when you are going to need Russia or when you're going to need to talk to Russia. A country as big and powerful and as important of Russia, you would think that there may be an instance where you're going to need to call upon Russia for something, or you're going to need to talk to Russia for something, as was the case with Griner Bout. But looks like Poland, they've decided, let's cut it all off. And actually, they took another decision, the parliament. They also ruled that the plane crash in 2010 over Smolensk, which killed, I believe at the time it was the Polish President Kaczynski and his wife, as well as other Polish officials. I'm not sure on that. I'm not sure of Kaczynski's position at the time. I think he was president. That plane crash, which after many investigations was ruled, I believe it was ruled an accident. I mean, it was just one of those things that happened. It was an accident. Anyway, they said that Russia's at fault for it. So they've also codified that as well. And there you can see the personal acts to grind, the axe that Kaczynski, the current, let's say he's the man behind the curtain. I say he's like the current leader of Poland because you have Duda, Morawiecki, but it's really Kaczynski who's pulling all the strings. That was his brother, from what I understand. And so there you can see the human, personal hatred that drives a lot of the hysteria that Poland has towards Russia, driven by one man and his, and it seems, I would imagine it's his desire to get revenge on the country that he believes is at fault for his brother's death. And I do believe that it was his brother who was president of Poland at the time that died in this plane crash. If my story's not accurate, then scrap everything I've been telling you with regards to the plane crash of 2010. But I think I'm right. I'm working off of memory here. So let's do a clown world and wrap this up. And since we're talking about prisoner swaps, by the way, and how you never know when you're going to need Russia, it looks like the U.S. hasn't learned its lesson with regards to taking Russian prisoners, because just the other day, the DOJ, the Biden DOJ, they took something like 5 or 6 Russian, either Russian Americans or Russian nationals that were living in the U.S. I'm not sure exactly what their status was in the U.S. Maybe they were of Russian ethnicity, but they were American citizens. Either way, the DOJ arrested something like 5 or 6. I wonder if I have the article here. Like 5 or 6 Russians in the United States under the charge that they were bypassing U.S. sanctions, like doing business that was bypassing U.S. sanctions and helping Russia. They were doing like they were in like information technology and stuff like that, and they were bypassing the sanctions, and by bypassing the sanctions, according to the Biden DOJ, they were aiding Russia, and they've all been arrested. Maybe even more than 5 or 6, maybe like 10. So the Biden White House just hasn't learned its lesson from the Griner boot incident. No reverse gear. So now what's Russia going to do? Well, they're going to find ways to apprehend American celebrities and business people, and I don't even know. I don't know what they're going to do, but that's going to be what Russia does. They're going to find another 5 or 6 Brittany Griners who are going to end up traveling to Russia or having to go to Russia to play some basketball game or football match, or I don't even know what. And Russia's going to say, well, looky, what do you have here in your bag? What do you have here in your hotel? And we're going to play this game again. They never learn. They never, ever learn, do they? So let's do a clown world. And this clown world, boy, oh boy, is this clown world a doozy. This is going to be a sports-related clown world. So let's see here. France is going to be playing Argentina. Who do you think is going to win the World Cup on Sunday? During a live stream, I said, I'm on record, actually. I think I did say Argentina's going to win it all. Way in the beginning of the World Cup. So that's who I said was going to win it. And they're now in the finals, but they're going to be playing a very tough and determined French team. Boy, is France good. They have a good team. Did you see Macron yesterday clapping? He was at the event clapping for France. So that's the World Cup news. We have some boxing news. The WBA, the World Boxing Association. This is good news, actually. They have made a decision that Russian and Belarusian fighters are now going to be in the rankings again. So that's good news. It looks like the WBA is coming to its senses. It actually put out a statement saying that this is good for the sport. It's important for the sport to start getting back to normal, and that is why Russian and Belarusian boxers are now going to get their points and their rankings and everything reinstated back to normal. So that's good news. Now we have the clown world, which has to deal with Canada's decision to, Canada's decision to amend their figure skating rules. And what Canada has decided is that going forward, the pairs figure skating, which is usually a male figure skater and a female figure skater, well, that is gone now. I'm speaking very slowly and very carefully because I don't know how I'm going to word this without getting without getting people going crazy, woke people going crazy against me. This is crazy stuff, man. This is crazy stuff. Yeah, so the Canadian Figure Skating Association, or whatever it is, I forgot the actual name of it. They've now ruled that figure skating is gender neutral. Let me read you some of the quotes here. Skate Canada changes ice dance and pairs rules to allow any two skaters to compete together at domestic events. The key word being domestic events. So most likely this ruling is not going to carry over to Olympic events, international competition. But let's see what the CBC has to say here. Skate Canada has updated its policies so that ice dance or pairs teams competing domestically can be composed of any two athletes. Canada's governing body of figure skating announced Tuesday that its definition of team for athletes training in the podium pathway will be revised to consisting of two skaters. The previous definition was one woman and one man. By updating the definition of team, many individuals in the figure skating community in Canada will have new opportunities to embrace the sport, Karen Butcher, president of Skate Canada, said in a statement. This change is about removing barriers to participation in skating, and we believe it will have a significant impact in ensuring all gender identities are recognized and accepted equally and without prejudice. So this is going to start domestic, but no doubt about it, this is going to get pushed to an international level. Put money on it. It's going to start on the domestic level, but pretty soon, Skate Canada, the organization for figure skating in Canada, is going to make the push. They're going to make the demand that skating on an international competitive level, i.e. the Olympic Games and events like this, the World Championships, that the pairs competition is not just going to be restricted to one male and one female athlete. That it be a pair of people of any gender and identity. That is what is going to happen to figure skating. And so eventually, I imagine what you're going to have is just two guys skating. That's probably where all of this goes. I would imagine that's the end game to all of this. But Maria Zakharova, Maria Zakharova, man, she put out on her Telegram channel a picture of a poster from the movie with Will Ferrell called Blades of Glory. Do you remember that movie? Which was a comedy film about figure skating, about a figure skating competition where Will Ferrell pairs up with his buddy, another guy, and they end up becoming figure skating champions. And that was the movie. And, it was a comedy flick with Will Ferrell and all kinds of of craziness and nonsense and slapstick, because that's what a Will Ferrell movie is about. But she put that on Telegram, and the point is that, this is, what can you say? The point to all of this is that the movies are becoming real life. Real life is becoming the movies. I don't even know anymore. I don't even know what other comments I can put to this story. But well played, Maria Zakharova. I completely forgot about that movie. Blades of Glory with Will Ferrell is now how Canada is going to be running their domestic figure skating competitions. A Will Ferrell movie has become Canadian policy in figure skating. The Duran.locals.com. Look for us on Rockfin and go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOOD DAY. Take care.